Hey YouTube, today I'm going to be taking another look at these two IYV ILP-400s, the modern cut style Les Paul. It reminds me of an ESP. If you haven't already, check out my first comparison of these two, and I've got an unboxing of each of them. I was so impressed after I bought the first one at a sub $200 price. It blew my mind, and when they came back up on Amazon, as much as I'm trying to freeze all of my buying, I snagged another one. Check out that first comparison between them. And in this episode, I'm going to be breaking out my caliper and looking at the exact measurements on these to see how good is the quality control. How close are the measurements? Are they really, is the CNC really precise? And so forth. And so we're going to be taking a look at them now. If you haven't already, again, take a look at the comparison. And a number of things we noticed. First of all, that they've got two different logos on them. And even though they were sold as the same finish, they're distinctly two different finishes. But both of them really beautiful and out-of-the-box well-playing instruments. And so after I do a series on comparing them, I'm going to start working on one of them. And I've decided to have the what I would call a tobacco burst, the darker brown finish, is going to be the one that I mod and level up. And I'm going to leave the other one completely stock and see along that modding journey how much difference in playability and sound quality we get out of them. So stay tuned today as we get out the caliper and check the quality control on these IYV ILP-400s. So in addition to basics like the scale length, I'm also going to check all sorts of measurements in terms of the length, depth, width of the head, the nut, the various measurements going down the neck, the depth of the neck at various points, the depth of the body, and so forth. And so I'm going to, of course, fast forward through all of the actual measuring, and then we'll come back and you'll see an overview of how close these are to each other. So I've got all my numbers down for the Tobacco Sunburst, the browner of the two, and now I just got to do all that again on the Cherry Sunburst. So now that I've got all the measurements done, let me get all of this put into the computer. I'm going to recheck a few measurements and then we'll see where we're at. Alright, so I'm all done with all my measuring and I've double checked some of the measurements and so forth. So let's put that graphic up here and talk through what I discovered. So first of all, the nut width was exactly on. They were exactly 42.9 millimeters each. So basically 43 millimeters, and they were right on. Same thing with the scale length. So the two of the most important measurements, totally dead on. Now you start getting some deviation, as I expected. Just eyeballing the headstock shapes did look a little bit different to me, and there was in fact some difference in terms of the width, particularly the top and bottom width were different. Now I don't know if this is on account of, you can see that of course the logo is different on the two headstocks, and so I don't know if they altered the size and shape of the headstock or if that was just, quality control issue in terms of the size difference. That's one of the issues here, is that looking at these, they do have some stylistic differences also, so I'm not entirely sure how much of this is purposeful or not, but they are sold as the same instrument, same model, so it bears comparing. Now once you get onto the fretboard, it's very, very close, and so the necks are very close, often within 1/10 of a millimeter, very, very close, going down a little bit of deviation, but nothing super significant. And then you get to the body widths. Now another thing I noticed was that the Sunburst one, the yellow one, has a lighter body. And unfortunately, I couldn't lay hands on my scale. We're just finishing up moving, and I've got a shipping scale, and I don't know if it has made it here yet. But I can tell you that there is some weight difference. It's not a significant amount of weight difference, but it is enough that you can pick them up and say, yes, the brown one is definitely heavier than the sunburst yellower one. And I think that's a difference of the depth in the body. Now they're all, you know, the other thing with weight on solid body guitars is that the cuts of wood themselves are going to contribute to slightly different weights even within the same, you know, model, same range and everything. That's why you go to some place like Sweetwater and you get a instrument, I believe it's above $400, they have all of the stuff including the weight of that exact one. And as you'll see, even looking at higher end stuff, the weight will be different according to each individual example. So the weight is not a huge thing. They're not significant. There's not a huge, tremendous difference between them, but I noticed that the sunburst is a little bit lighter, and I think that's because the body is a little bit thinner. Now again, it could just be cuts of wood as well, but it is slightly thinner body. And so is this purposeful? Are they moving towards a thinner cut, or is this just, again, a quality control issue? That we can't be certain on, but given the price tag of these guitars, given the very low price tag, you're talking an entry-level budget, you know, in terms of sub $200 is ridiculous for the quality of these instruments. And, you know, again, this is not, you don't see a huge deviation. I expected the headstock, it looked a little different, so I expected that. And the weight of the sunburst feels a little reduced, and so it might be that they actually reduced the specs down some. It could be accidental. I'm not sure. I would need more examples of this, and you know, and I don't have any, just to clarify, I don't have any relationship with IYV. They're not sponsoring the channel or paying me for any of this. This is just, I have become very interested in them as a brand because I've gotten some very high quality instruments from them for very cheap prices, and so I've accrued a small collection of these instruments, and I think down the road that people will be understanding exactly how excellent these are, and that the value will go up as the brand establishes itself more and more. Hopefully they have a strong future ahead of them because they're putting out some really incredible gear for folks that just, you know, don't have the money to throw down on a Gibson or Fender American or something. This is much more approachable price-wise, and it is budget though. We have to keep that in mind. And so, you know, looking at these two examples, you know, I am very impressed with the overall level of quality control, both in the finish and fitment, as well as the, you know, we got some very nitpicky exact measurements on these, and they are very close. That takes some very quality machining, and they present incredibly well. They're incredibly nice on the hand, especially the neck and these the seamless neck joint. It's just epic. Incredibly good guitars for the money. And so going forward, now that we've had some comparisons, and I'm going to do one more comparison video just looking at tones and see, you know, if we put them on the exact same settings, amp settings and everything, do they sound identical, or is there variation in the tone as well? So that's going to be the last comparison video, and then we are going to start working on the brown one. And we're going to level this one up initially by doing all of the extra setup work that I do to guitars that I want to gig with. So I'll walk you through all of that process, and then we can see, as I continue to work on the brown one, how different it is in playability and tone from the Cherry Sunburst. So thanks for hanging with me today, and thank you so much for watching. You have a wonderful day.